Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first virtual workshop of 2021. It's so awesome to have you all here with us. My name is Carrie Ramsey, and I'm the project manager for the We Can project, which stands for Women Entrepreneurs Can. And we are led by Queen's University and funded by FedDev Ontario through the Women Entrepreneurship Strategy Ecosystem Fund. And some of you know that the federal government has a mandate to actually double the number of women-owned businesses by 2025. And I was thinking yesterday, I was like, wow, it's 2021 already. So we're moving ahead towards that strategy. And I'm really thrilled to be a part of it. And We Can has been just very active the last year and certainly looking forward to what is coming up. So if you are tuning in from YouTube, because we do post all of our workshops there, maybe you're tuning in from sometime in the future, I will say that it is early January. Most of us are wearing warm sweaters because it is quite chilly, at least in our part of the world, but welcome. And speaking of parts of the world, we would love to find out where you're connecting from today. So if you don't mind taking a moment, there may be some new faces. There almost always are, and so welcome to you. First of all, if it's your first time at a We Can workshop, we are so thrilled to have you. And if you're returning, then welcome on back. It's good to have you. Why don't you take a moment, though, in the chat, let us know where you're connecting from geographically. As well, if you'd like to let us know the name of your business, if you have one. We'd love to see a link to that business. If you want to give us your LinkedIn profile, by all means, let us do that, because we'd like to connect with you even beyond today. Today is meant to, of course, be a training session on safeguarding your small business online with Melanie Rocco. But also, we would love to be able to network with you and learn more and perhaps collaborate in the future as well. So while you're taking a moment to let us know in the chat where you're connecting from, I will take a moment to acknowledge that I'm connecting to this workshop from the Bay of Quinte region, which is the traditional hunting, gathering, and fishing territory of the Huron, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. And at least here in the Bay of Quinte area, we are covered with a blanket of beautiful white snow right now, and during the holidays, our family tried to hike as much as possible. And actually, I was sort of meditating on an Indigenous teaching, philosophy, saying, whatever you'd like, and of course, probably passed down by oral tradition, so I'm not sure who said it originally, but I wrote it down, and it says, "We're known forever by the tracks we leave." And I thought that was such a beautiful sentiment to be thinking about while we were hiking just over the holidays, because we'd turn around and we'd look at our tracks, or we'd even photograph them. And at the beginning of a new year, what a great time to think about what our impact is going to be. And you know, by the time the end of 2021 comes, when we turn around and look back, what are the tracks we've left? And we can be really intentional. I'm sure many of you have set intentions for this year to come. But I've done that this year with sort of keeping in mind of what are the tracks that I want to leave, because I think that's really important. So that's just a little thought I'll leave with you as we do our land acknowledgement today. Thank you so much for letting us know in the chat where you're from. I'll be checking on that in just a moment. I will, of course, be in the chat throughout this session today. Melanie is our fantastic presenter. I can't wait to get into her material. But if you have questions or you just have concerns throughout the presentation you want to ask me, you can message me privately, or you can post for the whole group to read as well. Please do that. I believe Melanie will be given some instruction as to when the Q&A will be taking place. So, of course, today's session is being recorded. If you would like a copy of the recording, I will put my email into the chat, and you'll be able to have that link today as well. So, without further ado, I would like to turn the virtual floor over to Melanie, who is joining us, I believe, also today from the Bay of Quinte. She looks like she's in downtown somewhere. I don't know, it's fantastic. Love these Zoom backgrounds. So welcome to Melanie. Over to you, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Carrie, and thank you for such a warm welcome and for this opportunity. I am so happy to be here today, and I'm really on fire about this topic because I was raised by entrepreneurs. I know the entrepreneurial spirit and heart, and I so relate because I'm also an entrepreneur. So just a little bit about myself. I am an Ontario licensed private investigator. I don't do surveillance and I don't do infidelity cases, but I am an OSINT investigator, and I will get into that in a few moments as to what that actually means. I have worked quite a lot as a subcontractor for PI firms, insurance firms, and law firms throughout the country. And I finally decided as of early last year to reach out and start my own business. And now I just work for myself. So, one of the things I do is consulting for small businesses in exactly this topic. I help people learn how to safeguard their businesses online. And I also do investigative work. Also, I'm a project manager for the Association of Internet Research Specialists. So essentially, if I'm not doing investigative work, I'm teaching how to do it. So welcome today. I'm also extremely excited to be a part of the We Can project. Coming up, there's going to be opportunity for any women who want to be a part of our 6-week-long coaching program. With yours truly, there will be some one-on-one coaching time, plus every Tuesday morning, we will be delving deeper into some of the topics that I am presenting today. Also, I'm going to be throwing some technical information at you. So should you want a handout that I've made, at the very last slide will be my email address. So please do contact me. I'm always happy to connect. I will provide you with this handout I made, which has lots of instructions and links for further research. So please don't feel today you have to be scribbling down really quick, copious notes. All of this information is available to you if you want it. And also, I am approachable. I am there for the small business. So anytime you ever have any type of security question, never hesitate to contact me. I'm on LinkedIn, and of course, you will have my business email as well. So before we really get going, I really want to advance my slide. There we go. I would love to know if you can just drop me a word or two in the chat box. I really want to know, where are you at right now in terms of how do you feel about the cybersecurity of your own business? It's not uncommon to feel overwhelmed. We know that every day we're getting news about new data breaches, and the techniques and the tools that are applied to cybersecurity are a constantly evolving thing. So I'm just gonna see if I can see the chat here. And has anyone dropped us some some words? Yeah, there is so much spam. Okay, yeah, and there's a lot of apps out there that really do compromise our privacy and perhaps put us in a very vulnerable position in terms of online security. You feel okay but could learn more, and that's great. And you know what? Even though this is where I center my field of work, I still could learn more, because that is the thing with anything to do with safety online, is that it's almost like an amoeba. And if you grab it, more will squish out the top because it's constantly changing. And I always like to throw this in too, is that globally right now, there are 4 million unfilled cybersecurity positions. 4 million. There are far more people maybe working on the wrong side of the equation than the good. So if anyone's ever considering a career change, or you have young people in your life looking for an area to target, really there are jobs aplenty, and they are good, stable jobs, and they're not going anywhere. So thanks for your contribution to the chat list, because that is what I figured is it's very common to feel lost. And I'm hoping today you're not going to come away with all the answers, but I'm really hoping that you feel empowered to start taking matters into your own hands. And I think the tips and techniques that I'll give to you, they're very accessible and easy to employ. And I hope with that knowledge, you will actually sleep a little better at night when you think about your business. So this doesn't like to advance. There we go. So I mentioned earlier that I'm an OSINT investigator, and I'm just going to explain what that is a little bit, because I actually want all of you attendees today to come away with some new OSINT skills. So we can all be open source intelligence investigators. Really what open source intelligence is gleaning information from the internet that is free and legally accessed. Now, worth noting, not every search engine we use indexes every single web page out there. So when you actually fine tune your searching skills, you're going to learn that there's so much more to the internet than what you're already accessing. So I'm going to be showing you some techniques on how to dive a little bit deeper into the web without actually going into the dark web. But you are going to be empowered to use OSINT for good for your own business. So what is our why? Why are we doing this today, and why do we need to be up on our cybersecurity skills? So this research shows that 43% of cyber attacks target small businesses. This is old research, it's from 2018. I am willing to put money on the fact that since the pandemic started, we are probably sitting at more of a 50 or even a little higher. The thing is when small businesses are breached, it really doesn't make the news. So there's a lot of breaches that go on out there that we might not even know about. But part of my job is every morning with my morning coffee, I'm reading the cyber news of the day, and I can tell you that not a day goes by when I'm not learning about a new breach. So if they're attacking the big guys, they're also attacking the little ones as well. The threat really is real. So there was a study done in 2019 that Canadian businesses, they really do largely overestimate how secure they are. And very interesting is that consumers don't feel quite the same. They're feeling less confident about the security of their data, but meanwhile, companies feel like they're doing everything they can and should, and all is well. Well, I can tell you that it was last year before lockdown started. I was in a different city in a big box store, and I found myself in the children's section alone. Now, I really do understand the current retail landscape, and I know it's difficult to adequately staff, but I was completely by myself in this big department, which is okay. But when I looked over there was a separate till, and I'm going to assume there was no float in the till that day. I mean, I was there during like off hours, but sitting on the counter was a debit credit card pin pad, just sitting there exposed all by itself. So knowing what I know, and knowing that compromising a pin pad is really not a new crime. We've been hearing about this for over 10 years now, but it's just a really simple thing you can do to protect your business. Seeing what I saw and knowing it takes seconds for a criminal to compromise a pin pad, I actually made the choice that day not to shop in that store, because I felt that if my data is not being taken seriously, then that is not where I want my dollars to go. So a bit of an eye-opener there. Consumers do care about the security of their information. So when we talk about the world of data breaches, really, what are we talking about? So just up until Q3 for last year, there were almost 3,000 publicly reported data breaches. Now, these would have been big companies, and like I said earlier, only the big breaches get publicized, and especially after a year like we had last year, which was extremely chaotic. Breach stories do tend to get buried in the news, but that's only the 3,000 that we know about. So if that's a bit of an eye-opener. Add to that it's such a big business out there in the black market that there are human beings that work as data breach brokers, believe it or not. They work as middle people between hacker to hacker. And just 2 days ago, there was some arrests made, Northern Ireland and the Netherlands. 3 gentlemen were arrested because they operated another data breach information brokering service, and they actually advertised it on Twitter, believe it or not. So not all breaches are in the dark web. They're brazen, they have big egos, and I have a feeling that just as soon as one of the businesses is shut down, I think 3 or 4 law enforcement agencies were involved in that, a new one's going to spring up. So I'm adding this in today just so you can have a good idea of just how vast the want for your personal data is, and of course, the data of your clients and your customers. So why do these businesses, small businesses, fall victim to cybercrime? Well, they are assumed by criminals to have weak security standards. Many small businesses don't monitor server networks and data on a regular basis. Studies show that many small business owners don't think they would be attacked. Some businesses typically don't hire IT specialists because, frankly, if you are small, you probably can't afford that. And there have been cases of small business owners who did not use secure Wi-Fi networks. And then also just the lack of training could also play into this. And I have to add too that, you know, hackers will always want to practice on the small businesses before they start practicing on the big ones. So there's that as well. So we need to know what is attacking us. And I chose this slide as a little nod to the Queen's Gambit. Okay, so password attacks. Password attacks really are the most common way that the criminal element is going to get into our systems. So if we do have sloppy practices in place, chances are we're dangling out there like a carrot. And here is, I have altered this screenshot, but I thought you might like to see what it looks like when data has been compromised online. So what you're seeing here is an old breach, and I didn't go into the dark web for this. This was just dangling in a paste bin, but this is data that was enticing you to go further to the dark web to get more credentials that have been leaked. And this is from the University of Washington. I'm going to assume it was from a bookstore breach back in 2014. I would like to think these people have all changed their credentials, but just in case, that's why I did blur them out. But just an example of what it looks like when hackers do steal your customer client list and put it up for sale on the dark web. Lots of money to be made on that. And you know what I didn't mention to you is that business that got shut down a couple days ago. So they were actually offering, you could subscribe on a monthly basis. So it was kind of like the HelloFresh of the data breach world. So every month you could have access to, you know, maybe 1,000 names and numbers and SIN numbers and credit card numbers. And then you could upgrade your package from there. So believe it or not, you know, it's structured just like Surface businesses would be in our above board world. Social engineering attacks. So these are becoming more and more common. And what social engineering is it's really just a manipulation technique. So bad actors will start to create a profile on you. And I've included here, because these are a bit of a pet peeve of mine, these social media quizzes where you can fill in all sorts of different details about yourself. Now, some people will say, oh, I don't actually put my real information in there. But honestly, how fun would that be? Just why would you even bother to fill these out and fill them with misinformation? There's no point. So I tend to think that there is a kernel of truth, at least, when people put these out on social media. If I were a bad actor, I would know right off the bat how to begin profiling my target. I mean, this person, I know that they don't move around much. I know the media that they like, maybe places they've traveled to, maybe the fact that they're retired. Maybe if I go into deeper, I can start to study their patterns of use, what time of day they're on the internet most frequently, etc., etc. So the big takeaway here is don't put too much information out there about yourself or your business, because you might be feeding criminals all the information they need to target some specialty emails coming your way. Now, social engineering attacks are often done online, but they can also be done in person. But for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to stick to just the online, and we're going to get a little deeper into this, but social engineering is real, especially when it's used for criminal intent. And we all just need to really be aware of what we are offering the world about us. So there's malware. If you have an antivirus software, you know this is what you're protecting yourself against. Malware can look like adware, it can look like spyware or Trojans. Right here is where you're going to see what adware looks like. You may have come across computers that have lots of pop-ups happening, and this happens because the user has clicked on something that they really should not have. And what happens is you're now inundated with lots of ads. Now, businesses will actually pay to be one of these nuisances. But the thing is their intent might just be to make money, but what they might not be aware of is their ad could also be infected with spyware. Spyware is malicious code that makes its way into your systems, and it will start to record your keystrokes. It will also, create a profile on you, essentially. Over time, if they're watching you long enough, this information is used to crack your passwords, maybe steal your information, etc., etc. And Trojans, they look like software that you might download. So how do we, and once they're in, they also wreak havoc on your systems. How do we get all these? By opening up links and emails, by downloading free things off the internet. Basically, if you're getting hit with adware, spyware, or Trojans, it's because you have done something to bring it upon yourself. So really good web browsing policy and practices is important in your business. And as we progress through this webinar, I'm going to teach you some tricks about how to avoid these pitfalls. Ransomware is something that is gaining attention more and more in the media. I'm finding these to be quite popular lately. Here is an example of this ransomware, I believe, just came out New Year's Day. It's called Babuk Locker. So what happens is you unwittingly open something, now your system's infected, and what they do is they will seize all your files and your data. So what's going to happen is you're going to try to open something in your system, and you're going to get this message saying that it's being held captive, and you are going to have to do something for them in order to get your information back. Not ideal. So this is these are actual screenshots from this victim. They ended up paying around $60,000 in Bitcoin to try to get their information back. Now, the thing is, you might not actually get your information back even if you do pay. There's no governing body to hold your hacker accountable, right? So some cybersecurity experts are saying, don't bother paying, cut your loss, and some are saying pay. So I can't give you the right answer on this. It's very situational. But if you look right here, can you see my cursor? Can anyone see it? Okay, so this is they actually have a live chat box. So this is the hackers, and the fuzzed out part is the victim, and the hackers are leading them through the steps to apparently get their data or give them money, one or the other. So pretty sophisticated. I'm willing to bet that this would be like an organized crime ring that's doing this. I can't see it being just one person. Okay, drive-by downloads. So these are viruses that can infect your system, and you didn't really do anything to get them, which is the sad part. This is an example here of one called KS Clean. So the user of this phone, and just as an aside, even Apple phones can get infected. So that is a bit of a misnomer out there that Apple products don't get viruses. They certainly can. This person maybe would have clicked on an ad on a website. And what they didn't realize is when they clicked on that ad, they are now infected with this virus. It presents itself as an app. So it could sit there dormant for a long time until you realize, oh, what is that? I don't remember putting this on my phone. And then you click it. As soon as you do, your whole system is seized by bad actors on another end, and you will no longer be able to get access to any of your data, your photographs, anything. It's gone, and the phone is pretty much rendered useless. So just as a little tip, it's really hard to avoid these drive-by downloads, but if you are on a website and you see an enticing ad, it might be worth it to not click the ad, but maybe just go to the actual business website and try to access the product that way. It's not foolproof, but I mean, I got hit by one of these before in the past just by, I wanted to watch a video, a travel video about going to British Columbia, and I clicked on it. This was before I knew about don't click on things with really long strings of code attached. And I ended up losing my whole system. So I was lucky because that virus that day was just intended to destroy my system and not steal my credentials. So even the BBC got hit by one of these once in one of their ads. So point of sale hacking. I mentioned earlier that PIN pads can be compromised. Well, you can also have your POS system compromised through opening up a malicious email. Code can work its way through your system and eventually into your POS. Not ideal for sure. Phishing and farming. So phishing is all those emails that you get, maybe the funny one hanging out of your fax machine on a Monday morning that you just laugh at. There is a spectrum to phishing. Some of them are so sophisticatedly done that it takes a very trained eye to figure out that they're fakes. But they all want the same thing, and they all want you to make contact with them in one way or another. Often it's opening up a link, and then you are in a world of hurt if you do, because now you've just brought viruses into your life. Farming is, it's another thing that can be done to your business because criminals will hijack the naming system of your server, and then what happens is they spoof your website. So your customers are then funneled away from you, and they will think they're shopping at your business website, but they're actually not. And it's really devastating and a very difficult type of data breach to recover from, because it really does destroy any confidence that your customers or clients have in you. So I thought, this is kind of a fun thing to do. I thought I will try to follow the trail of a phishing scam. So this was one that was in my spam box, and I will point out a couple things here. So we're looking here at the fact Amazon doesn't look quite right, for one thing. And I know off the bat that this is just a spoof, so I thought I'd pick one that was kind of funny. This very long string here is a bit of a red flag as well, because big legit businesses, they won't contact you via anything. They will just contact you, and anytime you see these random codings, it's a big red flag. Someone also who made this, they were sloppy. They left this photo icon in there, so right away we know we're not dealing with a professional team here. And then the fact that they left us this strange, words of encouragement, I'm pretty sure Amazon does not bother with that sort of thing. They also addressed me by my email address and not my name. And if Amazon really wanted to contact me, they have the ability to know my name. Now, if you pressed OK, that you would end up, bringing a virus into your life in some way or another. But the thing that I found interesting was that they gave us an address. So I thought, well, I'll do a little, by no means a formal investigation, but I definitely want to follow this little rabbit trail. And like I said, it's not a formal investigation. I could be actually really wrong and get it completely wrong, putting that out there. So I found that this address is attached to a business. I believe that this business is legit, but what I do think is happening is they are just using this address. So when I went into Google Maps, I found that this location is actually a very large office suite complex. So I'm wondering if there is perhaps a connection to this building, but it's inconclusive. So I saw that and I thought, well, that's interesting. I also found a now defunct Amazon third-party seller site also linked to this address, which has been taken down by Amazon. I could not find any products that they were selling. And I did find, though, lots of reviews that were positive, but none of them actually explained what the product was. So you got to wonder, did they buy those reviews? It could be likely. Amazon has been known in the past to have issues with some fraudulent third-party sellers. So do, as an aside, buyer beware when you're on Amazon. So then what I did was I found this address was also linked to these 4 gentlemen and an offshore bank account. And this is all open source information. I did not dive anywhere where I shouldn't have. Anyone can access these. So is this them? Are they responsible for this phishing attempt? It is possible. It's hard to say. But I thought it was interesting. And why have I done this? Because I want to really bring home the point to everyone attending today that cybercrime is a human crime. I think sometimes we glaze over because it's, like I said earlier, it's like this amoeba that's ever shifting and changing, and lots of high level language. And if you don't know computers well, you maybe don't even know what you're hearing. But at the end of it all, and cut through all the jargon, it's still a human crime. Now, back on track, another threat to us is attacks from our competition. And unfortunately, defamation attempts are on the rise. I see them a lot. I have helped people through them a couple times myself, and I've actually been on the wrong side of this too. Several years ago, I worked as an operations manager in a big box store, and we were on the raw edge of this because someone out there, they put together this Facebook post about us, and it wasn't even remotely true. Apparently we were mistreating someone, and they named another business as the good guy and we were the bad guys. And at the end of the post, they put, "Make this viral." Well, you can believe it spread like a prairie fire, and I've never felt so numbed and nauseous all at the same time. So when this happens to you, you need to act quickly, but even better if you can try to put safeguards in place to know that it's going to happen in the first place and to know about it right away. So, and I will get into that in a few minutes. Doxing is something I wouldn't wish on anybody at all. So doxing is when it's not so much a crime of someone wanting to steal your credentials, but they certainly want to destroy your reputation, take you down, hurt you in some way or another. Anybody can be doxed. It does tend to be people who are affiliated with companies that people have a problem with, or political affiliations, or medical practices, or even the fact that you're a female in a male-dominated industry. There's all sorts of reasons that people want to dox someone. And I thought I would try to delve a little deeper in this one for you. So I did dip in and I found someone who was doxed. Of course, I'm not going to show that information, but at the end of the dox, the hacker left this little poem, which he or she calls their manifesto. And I just wanted to really show you like just how much hate is behind a doxing attempt. So the individual that was doxed, they worked for, or still work, for a large corporation. in a different country. Obviously, whoever did this to them has a problem with the company, and they didn't just dox them, they doxed every single shareholder. So this person, their address was leaked, and this is all public information if you want to find it, you know, and this is the criminal part of it, is there was his address, the fact that who he was married to, the fact that he had 2 small children, how much he's worth, his of course where he works, and then even the fact that he was having an extramarital affair and who he's having an affair with, and her address. So as you can imagine, this is a nightmare. And this is the kind of thing that can happen online. Now, can you prevent this from happening? No, but there are things you can do to try to reduce your chances. And that is one of them. Be careful how much information you're letting people know about you online. So, common mistakes that business owners make. Failure to update our POS systems. I mentioned earlier about the PIN pad, and there are softwares often with your POS that you're going to have to look at and update on a regular basis. Criminals love outdated software. It's like leaving the front door of your house open. And this one is just an old school thing you can do, and that's lock up your devices. And when you're not using your business devices, log out. Insist that if you have staff, that they all do the same thing, and register your devices. You know, just the simple good old lock your office and lock your devices, it really does go a long way to protecting you out there. Have a security policy. This is fairly easy to do because there's lots of examples online, but every business should have a policy, and I'll get a little deeper into that. If your softwares have a timeout feature, you really should use them in a business setting, because the longer software just stays open and exposed, the more enticing it is to criminals. So it's just, you know, a fail-safe thing you can do. It doesn't take a lot to set this up if it is available to you, and it could get you out of hot water. Not encrypting your data before storing it to a cloud. This is how celebrity nudes get leaked. In the cybersecurity world, most will agree that we put too much of a false sense of security into cloud technology. You really should encrypt it. And I don't know if I mentioned, did I mention that I have a handout that's available at the end of this webinar? Okay, so I do have a handout that's available, and at the end, if you just send me your email, I'll send you this. I do provide instructions on how to go about encrypting before you upload to the cloud, and it has other information too. So please don't feel you have to be like scribbling massive notes down this morning, because all of this can be available to you if you just give me a quick email. So yeah, please do make sure you are encrypting before it ends up in the cloud. Sloppy password standards, that's a great way to get hacked. And I will go into that in a little bit as well. Don't ever use public Wi-Fi. It's a really nice gesture for businesses to offer it, but it's not secure. You know, just incorporate it into your business spending that you have a really great data plan, because you know, when we finally get through this time we're in and we can all go back to working in coffee shops again, you're really opening yourself up to vulnerability and the potential for being hacked. I have a friend who is a public figure, and he rode a megabus back home to see his folks. And on the trip, he used what he thought was the public Wi-Fi for Megabus, and maybe it was, or maybe it was one that just kind of seemed like it was. He ended up having his identity stolen, and it took him 1.5 years to get his life back after that, just by trusting the wrong Wi-Fi. So there's a term called OPSEC, and it stands for operational security. And I do keep touching on this in my talk. It really just means be careful what information you are putting out there about your business. I have seen in the past people taking selfies of themselves at work, and in behind them is their computer monitor, which is open, and I can see if I want to like enlarge the picture. I know what software they use. I have seen, you know, information that's probably not meant for my eyes sitting on a desk. So really be very careful about what you are telling people about your workplace, your business, yourself, your loved ones, because if someone wants to make a profile on you, don't make it easy for them. And, you know, especially if you operate a business that offers any level of confidentiality, that needs to be taken into consideration at every level of how you conduct yourself. So here is where it starts to get really fun, and this is the preventative action. So we have to have the mindset that we're going to be proactive, preemptive strike on the criminal element to protect our business. So I'm going to teach you some OSINT techniques and things you can do to safeguard yourself. I want you to be your own James Bond, however that may look. Think like a criminal. Look at your business through the lens of someone who wants to cause you harm or steal your client customer data. Where are your vulnerabilities? Where are your blind spots? Who out there is your competition? Do you have employees who have left you on bad terms? Do you have employees who have left you on good terms? Do you have employees who seem impulsive and overeager to share information? Are you that way? You know, just really take a good hard look at your business and try to see, if I wanted to attack me, how would I do it? So now I've nagged about the passwords a lot. So here we go. Your passwords, they need to be unique. They need to be long. There is software out there that is used specifically to crack passwords. So short passwords, even if they are unique, they can get hacked. So the longer, the better. And change them on a regular basis. And I mean regular, like build it into your work day planner. Every day this month or whatever, they get changed. Never share them. If you happen to have employees, you know, just have it as, this is how we operate. I love everybody. Everybody loves each other, but we never share passwords. That way nobody can be offended. And it's just, you know, you just really have to make sure that they're safeguarded, because loose practices can really sink your ship. So use two-step authentication. Yes, it's an absolute pain in the butt and an inconvenience to have it, but I recommend for every time, every social media application you use, you should have two-step, because we all know that social media accounts are quite easy to hack. How many times have you seen your friends on Facebook, suddenly there's weird messages popping up? It's because they've been hacked. So if you have the two-step authentication, chances are no one's going to bother to try to break through 2 levels of security. Myself, I learned this the very hard way, and I will also say this: never store your work passwords on a community computer if you have that system going at work. One day I walked into my office that I shared to find a coworker sitting at our shared computer having a coffee and looking at my personal Facebook account. Yikes. And I was in charge of the social media for the company at the time, so I just saved my password in the password manager, and I just assumed everybody would respect my privacy, but they didn't. So don't assume that even your most loved coworkers, you know, that temptation is strong, you know, to peek into someone else's life. Fortunately, I didn't have any skeletons in my closet, and, you know, but I came away that day saying two-step from now on. So password managers, they're really convenient and nifty to have, but a lot of people in the cyber world don't feel that they're secure enough. Definitely don't use the ones that come with your browser. So if you do want to use a password manager, try to find one at least that is a dedicated app that's only designed for that, because chances are there's a bit more encryption there. I don't use them. I store them all up here. But what I do, and this is a tip, is it foolproof? No, no password strategy is, but what I do is I have themes. So I will change all of my passwords on a regular basis, but I'll stick to a theme. So for example, and this is not my password right now, but I will do countries that start with A. So all of my passwords will begin with different countries that start with A, and then I will throw in special characters, capitals, and numbers in a pattern that I understand. And then, next month, countries that start with B. So this is how, in my brain that has many brain tabs open at all times, I'm able to keep myself straightened out. So just a little tip, use it or don't, but do think twice about that password manager that you're using, because they can be tampered with. So biometrics is a new emerging field. I find it absolutely fascinating, and I do a lot of reading on biometrics. But cybersecurity experts right now are saying, yeah, they're great. They have the capability to be great, but right now use them sparingly. And the reason is this. Like personally, I would love a world where everything I wanted to do, I just had to give it my eyeball and then it opens. But the thing is if your password is compromised, you can make a new one. But if your biometrics, and that's eye scans, fingerprints, facial scans, if they're somehow stolen, there's nothing you can do, because you cannot replace your fingerprint or your face or your eye. So just keep that in mind. I know, like my phone, I have biometrics on it, a couple different apps, but I really contain how much I'm using that right now. Get yourself a high quality antivirus software. So it actually is quite alarming to me how many people out there don't really know if they actually have a antivirus software running. Maybe the one that came with their device expired and they're not even sure. Nowadays, they work a lot better than they used to. I went to PC Mag last year and I just did my research on the top recommended softwares for 2020. I picked one in the top 3 that fit my needs the best, and really I don't think I spent more than $40 on it for the whole year. It does not slow my system down, but it sure makes me feel that I have a layer of safety in place to warn me if something a little off is about to happen. So if you don't have good antivirus, please look into it, because that's kind of your first line of defense. Now, this is one of my favorite tips. Set Google alerts. So this means that you can go, just Google Alert, and it'll come up for you. You put your business name in there, you put your personal name, you put your employees' names, anything you could think of that might give you a positive return on your business name. And then you can set it so that you will be notified as soon as it happens. And to me, this is very important. I want to know the minute my business is mentioned anywhere online. Now, this Google Alerts, of course, is only going to send its little spider bots, constantly scrolling the internet on web pages that it actually indexes. So this is not a foolproof method, but Google does index millions and millions and millions of pages. So there's a good chance that if your business is being mentioned somewhere, or if someone has made a spoof of your business and advertising and whatever, you're going to know, because you're going to get that email as it happens, and then you can jump into action right away. So I by no means want to embarrass this business owner, but this is a story that broke just on Monday, and I can't help but feel that had there been something in place like that, perhaps she would have known. So this is a woman in the Maritimes in Nova Scotia who has a CCAN rental business, And unfortunately, I believe even a man in Brantford was impacted. He lost over $40,000. Someone out there made a website that looked just like hers, and people thought that they were renting CCANs, so paid for it. CCANs were never delivered. She's even had angry people showing up in her driveway, threatening her. So that's obviously not ever a situation that you want to be in. But had she had the Google alert set up, maybe she would have known that there was someone out there actively advertising her business as their own, and being quite fraudulent. And in this case, the scammer laughed at his victims even on the phone, and of course law enforcement's involved. But this is just a cautionary tale. Really know out there on the internet where your business name is being used. And you know what, really, I know this sounds like I don't trust, but know your employees, where your employees' names are being mentioned online as well, because it could be quite revealing to know some of the things maybe they're involved in, and if they're using your business name as well. So just a little bit of, I guess in my field, you don't trust anybody, but I think that just knowledge is power, right? Okay, so this is included on the handout, so please don't feel like you have to somehow write all this down fast. These are some search queries that you can use just to poke around out there on the internet, just to see, is your business name being mentioned at all? And please don't just use Google. Use Bing, use Yahoo, pick your favorite search engine, DuckDuckGo, whatever. Google's great, but it's certainly not, comprehensive. So really do a check. And you know what? Build this into your day planner as well. Like every couple of days, I just throw some of these. You can save them in a document and just copy and paste, and then boom, plug them in and see if you're being mentioned anywhere, and hopefully you don't get any surprises. Now, what is an SQL injection? I thought maybe not everyone knows what that is. So all that is hackers will look for poorly crafted websites where there's some security holes, and they get in and they can either manipulate code or add things, take things away. Basically, it's just funneling more business away, or stealing credentials and information, like email addresses in this case. I chose this example. This is a data breach that happened last August, because as small business owners, a lot of us do our own marketing, and we tend to gravitate towards the free stock photos. At least I do. So FreePic is one of those sites, and they unfortunately were compromised to the tune of like 8.3 million email addresses and passwords. Could they have prevented this? Well, if they perhaps, actually, I know for a fact that this breach happened because of a disgruntled former employee who leaked to the competition or a hacker out there exactly how, where the vulnerabilities were. And then from there it grew, took on its own life. But just be really careful out there where you're obtaining your free business materials, because as one of my instructors has said, if you're not paying for the product, there's a chance that maybe you are the product. And I don't think that was the intention at all of FreePic, but inadvertently, that is exactly what happened. Another search string for you that will be in the handout if you want it. This is a technical one. This is what you could plunk in if you deal a lot with Excel and you have Excel sheets on your website, et cetera, et cetera. These advanced search queries could return a positive location of your business being mentioned somewhere, probably on an unindexed page somewhere, advertising that this information is for sale. Unfortunately, it does happen. And now this is one of my favorite slides, because this is, have I been pawned? And when I took a really great social engineering course, and the instructor's name was Troy Hunt in Australia, and he's created this. And what he has is this massive database of breaches. So what you do is you plunk your business emails in here, and then you hit pawned. and hopefully you don't get any results, but you probably will on one of your email addresses. Like, put your personal ones in there, put your employees in there, your loved ones, and you'll 10 to 1 if you've used Adobe in the past, or Canva, or MyFitnessPal, or anything like that, your email has been breached. So what do you do if you find out that your emails have? Well, at least change your passwords. I might lean towards like maybe making a new email, but at least, you know, knowledge is power in this too. If you have, maybe it's you, maybe it's an employee, maybe it's a loved one, if you see that someone you know, their email has been like compromised a lot, like 5 breaches or so, this might be a good indicator that they are a little careless online, and maybe they're using their business email maybe in spaces they shouldn't be. So it's just kind of good insight as well, right, on what's everybody doing with our business emails here. And then this one is kind of a fun one too. This gives you the ability to kind of dip your toe into the dark web without ever going in there. I don't recommend that anyone go into the dark web, especially not on a business device. It is the Wild West. It's not regulated. And unless you have several layers of security and encryption on your systems, do not. There is a lot of law enforcement that is using it, but also a lot of the criminal element. What you're going to want to do is go into this paste bin website. And if you've never heard of a paste bin, the important thing to know about it is it's not indexed by Google. So its sole function is like a repository for public information. A lot of coders use it, so not everyone that uses paste bin is a criminal. Coders will drop snippets of code there for others to use, etc., etc. But also hackers use it to either try to entice you to see things that they have advertised more down in the dark web. It's kind of like if you like this, you'll like this in the dark web. So keep that in mind. Put your business name in here, and you're going to be checking, because if anyone does have any of your customer database, etc., for sale down in the dark web, this might be a great indicator, and that way you don't have to sit there all day and cruise through paste bin. Now, and this will also be in the handout, by the way, I do want to give you, though, a word of caution on this, especially if you're using Google, is don't run this search string more than a couple times, because what happens is when you use Google, there is a program that's running in the background, and it is what they call a Recaptcha Api function. It's watching your behavior, and it gathers intel on you, and there is this ranking system it applies to you just based on your general habits. If you start plunking these search queries in one after another, it's going to flag you, and I think it would probably think you're a bot, and it will suddenly block you, and then you're going to be stuck sitting there doing those CAPTCHA puzzles, like click on all the crosswalks, click on all the stop signs. I don't know if it's just me, but I don't think I'm very good at them, because I will have to sit through like 12 of them. So just word of caution, don't overdo it, or you're just going to be stuck in the weeds, basically, and not finding out any information about your business. But anyway, it's kind of a neat little trick you can do. Now, also with Pastebin, there is a chance, you might, not always, not guarantee, you're probably going to get 0 results, which is a good thing. But if you do happen to come across anything that is illegal, it's happened to me before, you might find a doxing, or you might find leaked credit card numbers. Worst case is you're going to find, you won't find images, but you will find descriptors of abuse taking place, enticing you to go to the dark web to actually see the images. So if that happens to you, you have the option to report it. And I feel if it's child abuse, you have the duty to report it. If it's anything to do with abuse, and I'm gonna go so far as to say, even if it's an abuse of an adult, I would head over to CyberTip. And this is run by the RCMP, and it's a really great website. You just plug your information in there. You will remain anonymous, but they have people on the other side who will take that information and, investigate with it. If you find leaked credit card information or anything like that, I suggest right now, give this phone number a call instead of dealing with their website, because they are rebuilding it right now and it's glitchy. But give them a call during business hours and let them know what you found, and at least you've done, a good deed. Okay, back on track. So if you are running a business website on the old HTTP model, it's time to upgrade. So you're going to want to have your website as HTTPS. It's just an extra layer of security encryption that keeps you safe and keeps your clients and customers safe. My antivirus software will not even let me go to HTTP sites. It will give me a big screen and let me know that I'm about to leave safety. And frankly, I wouldn't want to shop on a website that is HTTP. So time to upgrade if you are. Most businesses nowadays are running this. And safe browsing practice, look for the little lock sign. And if you see that, you know you're in pretty good hands going to that website. Okay, once we finally get through the pandemic and we can, do business outside of the home, etc., when you're out in public, disable your Wi-Fi. It's just like a dangling carrot to some bad actors who could potentially get into your system. So remove the possibility. There's no need to have your Wi-Fi open like that when you're out anyways. Always a great idea, whether you're out or home, have a firewall on your system. And basically that's just, they block unauthorized access from private networks. It's an added layer of security. It could prevent unauthorized web users from jumping in there or illicit software attaching. So firewalls are, considered a great line of defense, as are VPNs. And VPNs are virtual private networks. They give you the ability, they connect your system to another computer/server somewhere else. So you're now online anonymous. You don't want people to get your IP number, because for a really tech-savvy hacker, that's a great way to start to infiltrate your system. And I do recommend that everyone use a business VPN. There's a lot of really good ones out there. And like, for example, mine is under $10 a month, and it just gives me that extra layer of security. I know, like, anybody who wants to compromise my system has to get through a VPN, a firewall, my antivirus, and all the other measures I have in place. So do look at that. And I will have that included in the handout as well, just a little bit more knowledge about things like firewalls and VPNs. So if your business has kind of a hierarchy, do keep in mind that your greenest employees don't need to have access to all the sensitive data that you have. I know there is a trend to have a flat node organization, which is great, but not everyone needs access to all the information. So that is something that you should keep in mind if you happen to be structured that way. Here we are back to those security policies. So no business is too small. Everyone should have one, even if you are a sole proprietor and you have just you as your staff. Find them on the internet. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. But the thing is if you sit down and just make a policy, and it can be fairly simple, making it is going to show you where are your vulnerabilities, where's my blind spots, how could I be improving. And if you have staff, now everybody's on the same page, and it's just a really important function to have a carefully laid out system. Everyone will, your staff, yourself, everyone will like I said, be on the same page and be able to keep you safer. Also, the latest trend is a lot of staff will bring their own devices to the business and use them for business purposes. On paper, it sounds like a wonderful idea, but it does bring about a lot of security questions for the business owner. It's very hard to control someone's personal devices. And you add to that, if they do have access to confidential information, it is opening itself to some potential vulnerabilities. Have a policy in place about the movement, which we call BYOD, bring your own device, and make sure your staff are really in the know about what is appropriate and what is not with their devices when it comes to your business. Know where your data is. Everything from flash drives to your laptops, etc., etc. Audit this on a regular basis. You need to know where every single thing is located, and you need to know who's been touching it, who's used it, who's taken it home, all of that. Really be quite stern on that. Nobody will take it personally. It's just when you have it contained and you know where all of your equipment is, you are really cutting out a lot of vulnerability. There's been many a breach historically, because even things like unencrypted flash drives have gone missing and all that. It's right out of the movies, but it does happen. Update that security software every day. So I know that sounds like a lot, but I will always check to see if there's any uploads or security patches available. So what I do is, as part of my morning routine, I will, I don't just wait for automatic updates, because I don't trust the lag of time. So I feel just better about myself if I seek it out myself. So I will go to my antivirus. Is there a patch today? My phone, anything that can have a security patch, I check it. I go make my coffee. Chances are everything is as it should be. I'll tickety-boo, and then I continue with my workday. What you don't want is to have those updates and you just keep postponing them. And I know they're annoying because they will nag you and they will come up. And a lot of people just click them off. Don't, because that is leaving you wide open. Those security patches are there for a reason. And your software companies, one of the reasons why software does cost so much money is because they employ, highly trained security teams to always be checking and creating patches. So take advantage of it, and it's just that added measure. And this is available in Ontario. Data breach liability insurance. It's just another level of peace of mind, because the scary stat is like 60% of small businesses that have been breached end up not surviving it. If you have that insurance in place, and it is affordable, you are covered for things like letting your customers know that there has been a breach, diagnosing and troubleshooting your systems, the cost of protecting and rebuilding your business's reputation. It goes on and on. So worth looking into. I strongly urge everyone just to go for it. It is the cost of doing business nowadays. Cybersecurity is something that needs to be taken very seriously. It's not just a frill. And we have to remember that no business is too small. So I don't mean to sound like I'm fear-mongering, but I believe that as women entrepreneurs, we have to take our head out of the sand and look at square on and put everything in place we can, because we owe it not only to ourselves, because we worked very hard to build these businesses, but we also owe it to our customers and to even our national security. So I will be diving into these topics more so in the one-on-one coaching sessions. I will talk about what to do if you have been the victim of a negative social media post, how to deal with that situation, all kinds of things, what to do after a data breach. a lot of people know they're out there, but they don't know what they're going to do once they are breached. So I will be covering that as well. And I'm happy right now. I know we have a few minutes, so if anybody has any questions, I know the chat bar was kind of going off there.
I popped back on here, Melanie, because I have been jotting down the questions. I'm hoping that I caught them all. I have a list. I have a list about 5 or 6. So if you want to adjust the answer to that, and then I'm sure there's a couple more. And when I say I have 5 or 6, I mean the audience has 5 or 6. I hope, folks, that I didn't miss any as well.
So
I want to mention, like Melanie said, she's going to go in depth. I know in the chat I put several times that the coaching, I put the link, but then I also attached the file, which kind of goes into the coaching a little bit more. So if for some reason someone can't open that PDF or they can't see it, just email me directly. My email is in the Zoom chat. If you'd like a copy of that PDF before, for instance, you applied. We do only have 10 spots for the coaching program because Melanie only has, so much time. And her coaching program runs, I'm going to say from February 2nd to March 9th, if I'm not mistaken. I believe those are the dates. It's a 6-week period, but it's only 1 hour a week. So don't get freaked out. It's not like a university course or anything. It's 1 hour a week. And that might be the very hour that helps protect your business in the future. So there's some group coaching and some individual coaching. So definitely worth checking into. So here's a question for you. You were talking about the pin pad at the box store being compromised, and someone said, what about a square reader?
So okay, first of all, I do want to say that by no means do I have all the answers. So if I am not quite hitting it today, I'm always happy to do a little digging for you. But I do know that the Square readers or any of the third-party payment sites, they are recommended for small business because they do offer a very big level of protection. So something to keep in mind, you are generally in great hands if you choose to use any kind of those third-party payment sites.
Okay, great.
I hope that answers it.
And perhaps, and if there is someone who wants to delve into that further, again, during the coaching, if you have those specific questions, I think that's a great chance to go in depth into some of those. A few people had a question about how do you set up a firewall?
Yeah, so that is actually in the handout. So how about this? If you do want that, just I will be providing you my email address. Actually, it's right here. There you go. So I do give instructions in that. It's just a matter of downloading it, and it's actually really simple to do. So yeah, just even if you don't want the handout, just give it a Google and you will find the instructions on how to do it. And that's the good thing about putting these measures in place to protect our businesses is that they're simple to do. Like there is nothing, none of these suggestions are something that you wouldn't be able to pull off. I just know it.
Cool. All right, so a question as well. When you're moving data from, sorry, I don't know all these technical terms, from on-prem to cloud, is that a risky move? And Narjez, if I got that wrong, you can correct me. It says
as long as,
go ahead.
Yeah, as long as you're making sure that it has been encrypted, I believe that you're going to be okay. It's the people that just stick their stuff in the cloud as is, that's where the trouble can be.
Okay.
I hope that helps.
Is it safe to use Google Drive for company information?
Privacy experts would say no. I haven't seen any big, Google breaches. So I know that every now and then in the news, one will come up like in a small way, but I mean, all the schools are using it now as well too. So that is a tough one to answer because a lot of privacy experts, they don't like Google and they certainly don't like Google Drive. But I personally, like, let's say I had a confidential list of like my client data, I would not put it on Google Drive. I would use something that's far more secure.
Okay.
Password protected.
Someone was asking, what is a VPN?
So that is the virtual private network. And it is, again, it's just something like that you can download. And so when you use your computer, You're then connecting to a server elsewhere. It could be anywhere in the world, but it's just this added layer. It keeps you anonymous online. Some people use it because they live in countries where they don't have access to news. So it masks your identity, so you're able to access any website anywhere in the world. So that's one reason. Criminals use it so they can be anonymous, but also people like us use it so we can be anonymous, so that, you know, we're not putting our IP address out there.
Okay.
I hope that answers that.
Yeah, and we will have time if anybody wants to chime in. I have two more questions that I see here. One from previous, which was, are there any indicators? You were talking about to update your software daily kind of idea, and someone was concerned about the legitimacy of, what if I click on the wrong thing to update? Is that just, you know, are there any signals there?
I don't know that would be a big thing. Any software I have, it'll, like, you'll see like automatic updates, or you can just check for updates yourself. So all you're asking it to do is just quickly scan to see if there's any updates available that day. Like, for example, I used to be really bad about not updating my phone. And then I would go and look in and be like, oh gosh, like that update came out like 3 months ago. Oh my gosh. And then I would hit, you know, update. So now it's just part of my best practice. Like, because I want those security patches, I really don't think you could go horribly wrong with it. I don't know how.
So those would mostly be within the app or your phone, not like a separate email necessarily that says from some weird address, you need to download this. I think that, yeah, consider the source.
It's built into your software to be able to update it. Yeah.
Okay, so Nicole is saying, when you say encrypt data before saving it to the cloud, do you mean just adding a password to access the file?
It does work that way. Now there's, again, in the handout, I'll give you instructions on how to go about it, because so you can actually have programs that will help you encrypt it before it goes in. But yeah, okay. Yeah, so yes, it has passwords, but also if it goes through this additional software, then it's assigned an extra layer of encryption. And then once it's in the cloud, let's say someone breaks in to hack you, they're not going to probably bother trying to crack it again, right? So I hope that helps. But again, in the handout, I have it all there for you, so I don't have to sit here and be like.
So make sure to be emailing her. I'm sure your inbox is full right now, Melanie.
Yeah. Please do email me, because I'm so happy to share what I've made for you. But yeah, verbally talking through the steps of it is pretty tedious stuff.
Okay. So Trish has a question, and Trish, if I'm getting this wrong, just chime in, just unmute yourself. But she's asking about Mailchimp and email and communications tools. Trish, what specific question do you have? If she has tips, or is there a specific question that I'm missing? Sorry.
So my question is, if you're storing customer data like in Mailchimp, is it safe there, and what can you do to protect it?
So I am going to say that I don't know what the security structure of Mailchimp is really all about. So I know what it is. I'm sure they would say it's secure, but I kind of feel like, like, I don't know if I would be comfortable storing my customer data there. I don't have, obviously, like a defined answer for you, and I certainly don't want to tear down Mailchimp. I am pretty positive they have stellar security in place, but at the same time, in my line of work, of course, it's extremely confidential. So I don't have any of my customer information in any third party. I just keep it in my own system, very secure. But I would just be careful of how much information I'm putting in a site like that. That's all. Does that help you?
I think Mailchimp is mostly email addresses, and Trish, like if you're sending out newsletters,
yes,
addresses. And I know, of course, and probably Trish and I both use the free version, You know, and to me, I do always ask myself, if it's free, how, you know, how much time, like that's my question. You know, if it's free, it's hard to know, you know?
I know that's such a tough one. And, you know, and then from the user end, it goes back to, I know, like, let's say someone sends me a Mailchimp, I'm going to fill out the survey or whatever, but I know that in doing so, there is a bit of a risk. I just make sure, again, it comes down to passwords. If your passwords are unique and, you know, you're on the ball that way, you're not using the same password for everything you have, should Mailchimp be breached and now they have my email address, well, my password's being, you know, changed frequently. So yeah, it's bad, but it's not the worst. And I don't, yeah, like Mailchimp isn't that invasive. It's just an email address. So, I mean, nothing is foolproof, right? So I think that's where I'm gonna just leave that answer.
Okay, those are the questions that I had seen. Does somebody want to pop up? We've got 9 more minutes. So does somebody want to take themselves off mute or put a question into the chat? Oh, here's one from Christina. Is it safe to store passwords in a password protected spreadsheet?
Well, what's the software that you're using? Is it Excel?
Excel, yeah.
Yeah, I would say that that's up there for safe. I know that those products are they're good quality products. I would be okay with that. I mean, you have to sometimes store passwords somewhere, right? And I think a password protected Excel sheet would be okay. Now that said, I would, if that is where you're storing your credentials though, that one search query that I gave you to be looking at, I'll show you here, to look for file type, I would definitely use it. Let me just get this box off of here. So this one here, this search query, you are looking exactly for the Excel sheets. So I would definitely be running that query on a regular basis just to make sure that all is well.
All right. Wow, this is a whole other world, let me tell you, for most of us.
That's why, yeah. And that's the beauty of, if you learn some, just a little bit of technique about how you do your searches online, you'd be amazed at what you can find out there. So definitely, and this is my angle, that's why I want to empower everybody to learn some OSINT technique and use it to protect your business. So,
absolutely. Anyone else have a question? Either in the chat or you can unmute yourself. And there's been great food for thought here today. Melanie, just want to advance it to the last slide again with your email there.
Absolutely. Has anyone ever used the Have I Been Pawned website before? Have you heard of it?
I have actually. Matt Richardson did a workshop for us just when the pandemic started and we were looking at cybersecurity, and yeah, and we all searched for ourselves and it wasn't fun results to find out, but they tended to be old addresses, or, you know, it was old information, but still it was the impetus I think many of us needed to say, whoa, we got to change your passwords. And I think I had heard, you know, some people change their passwords once a month, and which is overwhelming to think about. But, and again, the tip that I recall as well is don't put it on a Post-it on the bulletin board right beside your desk. and like, if we raised our hands in the group, you know, like how many of us have, you know, stored that password because you can't remember it in such an obvious place. So I think that was just such a basic thing that so many people, you know, when it's not top of mind, it's very easy to fall into these traps.
Yeah, it really is. And, you know, the important thing too is if you have been compromised, like, don't beat yourself up too badly about it. Just dust yourself off and keep going, because, like, look at the one data breach. 8.3 million people were compromised just from taking stock photos, right? So it's
true.
Out there. This is not going to go away. And like I said, anyone who wants to get into the cybersecurity field, there's jobs, because there's just not enough people on this side of the equation.
That's true. Paula, I think you had your hand up.
Did something that I did a long time ago, because I'd seen, it feels like a long time ago, it was 2011, I'd seen an image. I reported it to the police and did everything appropriate because it made me so sick to my stomach, but it was a lesson of not putting images on Facebook of children, especially. So when I'm not designing dog products, photography, but that's not happening either, is I actually store all clients' photos on external hard drive, and it's not plugged in all the time. Granted, I went and updated my computer, and the passwords that are on the external hard drive, I can't access from my new computer. And so now they're so locked up, I can't even get to them. Is there a way, is that a safe way of doing it? I guess that's my question. That, I'm storing those files on it, because the external hard drive isn't even plugged in. It's sort of it, I plug it in, and I'm just trying to make sure, because to me, they're not my images. They're not my stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great example of sensitive client information. The vulnerability is that it's on an external hard drive that is, it could be lost, and you can't get into it, but there are people who could definitely probably help you out with that. It's not a horrible thing to do, but as long as you have really great practices in place and you always know where that is located, I would keep it somewhere locked up for sure. I wouldn't just keep it in a cupboard or something, because you just don't know, right? Heaven forbid you were robbed or something like that. So definitely I would keep it in a safe or something. And that is a danger with external hard drives. But yeah, I'm one of those people that I store all of my confidential files internally, but I get it why they need to go on external hard drives too.
Good questions for sure. So being mindful of the time, I just want to, on behalf of all of us, Melanie, thank you so much. And I want to encourage anyone that has, maybe a specific question, that if you'd like to send that, you have Melanie's email right there. As well, if there's any questions about the coaching program that we've mentioned, and maybe it's not right for you, but maybe other business owners, and let's be honest, we all have a network. If you're following We Can Queens You, so there's no hyphen, it's just We Can Queens You on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, we're going to be posting about the coaching program today. And if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to share that out to your network, we want to protect women entrepreneurs with this coaching program. That's the ultimate goal. And so if you can help us get the word out, that would be awesome. Again, if it's not for you, but someone, just, send them a little note and tell them to reach out to me or Melanie, obviously. And we'll facilitate that. But we do want to have that program full so that we are, building a safe and I guess efficient businesses as we move into 2021. So thank you so much all for attending. I hope your year is a fantastic one. We do look forward to seeing you in more workshops. This month is full of workshops. If you want the list, let me know. We've got three more programs coming up that we're about to announce as well. It's going to be a busy, fantastic year. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.